Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ronjae Jones. I am a Morehouse graduate, uh, Morehouse man, for some people who like to put it that way. I'm a class of 2019. I'm also a class of 2015 Coatesville Senior High graduate, and I was a part of CYI way back in 2012. I guess that was 2012. So long time ago. I'm very far removed from the program in terms of my activity, but I enjoyed my time. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Jarvis Berry, who keeps me up to date with how things are going. Ms. Kaya Scott uh, as well. Send my love to her. And I would like to thank Helen for having me here today. And so we're going to learn some cool things today. Hopefully, I can impart some things and some wisdom on some videography tips, some editing tips, and hopefully how we can put this together through music and hopefully through storytelling as well. So, without further ado, one of the things that I'd like to start off with is the shooting concept. And so, shooting, of course, with a camera, not with a gun. It's my one joke of the day. I'm here till Thursday. Is hugely important thing. I mean, we have this medium where you can take it through journalism, through sports, through movies, through music videos, through broadcast, through news, and so it's a wide range of either expressing opinions, expressing facts, expressing knowledge, wisdom, and sometimes in our worst cases, it can be a tool of promoting hate and disdain and forms of racism and sowing seeds of hatred. But I ultimately think that this tool can be used for good, and in order for it to be used for good, you got to be able to have the conventional tools. And so hopefully that's what I'm going to show you today. And so I know one thing that a lot of people may have is their trusty phone. This is my phone, of course. And so this here is from what we've seen from news, what we've seen from broadcast is can be your greatest tool of capturing video. I say that because everybody always has their phone instrument tool that you don't have to spend nowadays. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars like I had to for my camera right here. I had to spend quite a bit of money. It's a couple years old, but it's my road dog right here, so I love that. But nowadays, this phone can shoot, I'd say, arguably better quality than that camera sitting down here on the ground. And so it's a hugely important tool, and it's one of the best, closest things that we can use to effectively shoot video. And so many of the same conventions apply, different shots, how to formulate shots. And so there are a couple time. And so the first thing is, when to get good shots. Oh, well, I don't have, the one thing that I had learned is the sun is one of the greatest sources of light that you can use at your disposal. It's free, and the best times to get it are at times we call golden hour. And so golden hour is when you shoot a shot with your phone or whatever you have, either at sunrise or sunset. And so what the sun does is the sun has this amazingly beautiful hazel kind of color, of which I'm actually going to show you a photo here in a few minutes. And it has this beautiful hazel color that really wraps around your skin very beautifully, and it really helps to illuminate a lot of people's natural skin. You see it a lot. They're getting their sunlight right. When the sun is completely clear on the face, it's this very lovely brown lush that you'll only really find at sunrise and sunset usually. And I would argue with the sunset, you might be able to get it an hour before the sun literally sets. And so most times that happens throughout the year. Around for sunrise, it's around usually I think it's about 6:30 a.m. And then you'll find that same type of light starting to kick in around 5:30 p.m. Especially with the summertime nowadays, the light is out for so much longer. And so I'm actually going to show you a photo here once I actually share the screen, of course. Um, and so this here is a really some good examples of photos that show golden hour. And so you see here where it's a really beautiful landscape shot. This is one of the shots, or we call this a wide shot. Um, and it's a really, like, you can tell I mean the sun is bouncing off of the water, of which water can be very reflective. Here's another photo that might look and actually seem a little bit more accurate to what it is that I'm talking about. And so you kind of see the sun starting to go down, and you see this lovely lush, like I wish I could get in a little closer, but if you look on the outlines of the gentleman's shirt, of the lady's hair, you see this lovely outline on the sides of their shirts, on the sides of their arms. And a lot of times, that's what a lot of people, especially on Instagram, are going for. Like, look at this. This is another beautiful photo. And so golden hour is one of the best things that you can do. And a lot of films, actually, if you would like this for a tip, um, in a lot of the films, they will actually do something like this. And so if you wanted to shoot a evening scene, but you don't want to shoot it in the evening, you can actually get up in the morning and shoot it. Because if you shoot it around that time, like right before the sun really starts to rise, you can actually make it seem as though you're shooting at the evening or nighttime. And vice versa. If you want to shoot at, an evening time and want to make it look like, hey, I'm shooting this for the day, you can do the opposite. And so it's a really helpful tool, especially if there's something in your story where it looks like somebody needs to be waking up earlier in the morning, um, or right around, they're coming up just around sunset time. And so that's a really beautiful, helpful tool. And so the other thing is a thing called rules for thirds. And so this is a really good framing tool that you can use. And so I know all iPhone settings give you the option of having grids on your phone and not having grids on your phone. And so if you hold your phone like this, of which, if you're doing something like a video or a film, I would highly recommend that you hold it this way. This is vertical, hold it horizontal, like a landscape shot almost. And so basically what rule of thirds are is, on the grid, you're separated into 3 different planes. So you got your horizontal 3 planes. So see if I can show this with my mouse. And so you have your 1 zone here, you have your 2nd zone here, you have your 3rd zone here. And so with the subject of this little girl at the beach, you have her framed here on this line here. Basically, for the most part, she's centered in the third side, or the 3rd line of the grid. And so a lot of times, if you're shooting a scene that provides like a close-up with somebody, where the shot is closer on somebody's face, you may want the line to go up here to about their eyes. But for a bigger shot like this, you frame her right so that you see a lot of the background here, and also with the fact that you see her on the 3rd, very appealing to the eye. And here's a really good example where you see here where the gentleman's iPhone is literally set up. It's set up in a way that I probably wouldn't hold it as, but I'm not going to hold it against anybody, of course. It's set up on the third, around the 3rd side, around the 3rd or the 2nd line technically, but it's in that 3rd quadrant form, and it's lined up. And what that does is it just gives something that's very soothing, very appealing to the eye. And so things like that, that's a really good way of framing yourself, especially if you're trying to be a photographer and you don't have a lot of money. That is a really good way to start. It doesn't cost anything to use these types of framing references, and to really have and make your photos and or video look the best that it can. And another piece of advice that I'll give with something like this is take your time. Take your time. It's nothing for you to get the shot right or how you want it to look. They even have frames where you can put your subject in the middle of a frame. But those are the two biggest, at least, tips that I like to give. And I may come back and forth throughout this presentation with maybe some more tips that you may be able to use. And there was a short film that I had shot, of which I would like to give some examples to, dealing with golden hour in particular. And so this film here is a film called Socket. It's a short film that I did my senior year, and I'm actually going to be referencing this a couple times. This was, like I said, my senior year short film. I wrote it, I directed it, and I edited the film. And it was a really interesting experience, another huge, great learning experience, and that I really enjoyed. And I'm not going to show the whole thing. I am just going to show kind of excerpts. But what I can and will do is anything that I show you today, I will leave some links with Helen to kind of make sure that you'll have some references to what it is that I'm sharing today, in case you want to go out and try them yourselves, which I highly recommend, of course. And if you just want something to refer back to. And so is the idea of golden hour. And so actually, I'm going to switch out from my microphone into this. And so the sound really doesn't matter for this right now. But this scene here that you see a gentleman running. This is part of the story where a gentleman is basically training to be basically the best that he can for this arm wrestling contest. Kind of excuse the construction. I kind of left it in there because it was kind of interesting. But this character here is basically training his mind, his body, basically, to kind of be the best that it can, because in a day or two, he basically has to arm wrestle someone, and a bigger opponent. And so you kind of always want to be in the best physical shape that you can. And so you might not be able to see a lot of the sunlight, but this scene here, I actually shot in the evening time, where I was talking about that golden hour. Now, these shots here, because I colored it a certain way, doesn't give the exact kind of lush, orangish type of feel, but especially with this shot here and the last shot prior, you can really see their faces evenly. That's something where, when I was starting out, it was always about getting the best shots. And the best shots to me, in my opinion, are the ones where you can clearly see the people's faces, and you can also kind of understand also what it is that they're saying through mouth movements. And so you're seeing this kind of golden hour, and this might be another really good example. And of course, the video is a little choppy, excuse that. But same thing with this shot here. It's the same shot from earlier, kind of intercut in between. But you can also point out, and you can see everyone's faces. You can see his face clearly. You can see his face clearly. And even though his phone is in front of his face, you can see his face very clearly. And so that's kind of what I was going with, and what I really wanted from out of this film. And so I kind of paused it when the shutter came out. But you can also see this lovely wrapping here of light around the shirt as well. And so, and these are things that you can do, like if you want to accentuate some orange color that you may get from a form of sunlight, you can always do that in editing, of which that is something as well that I'd like to cover hopefully next week as well. So these forms of sunlight and forms of framing. And so if you look at this shot here, this is a rule of thirds. This is a really good rule of thirds teachable moment here. And so you see the three characters right here on the left side. So they're actually framed in that rule of thirds grid. So if I were to put a grid here, um, which unfortunately I can't because it's a YouTube video, but if I were to put a grid here, you would actually see those three characters framed in that third quadrant area, where the person closest to the man in front of the camera, closest to the camera, so this gentleman here, is actually on that line, that second line here. And so these are some really good visual filming tips that I think would be hugely invaluable to have. And so one of the other things that that I really want you all to get out of this is just for me to be able to share some things that I wish I would have known kind of when I was really starting things out. And so, when you're starting, at at the level that I was at back in 2012, I kind of went in, I didn't know much. I was like, all right, I got to kind of figure this out and really learn on my own, of which, I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Pulio, Tony Pulio. He was my teacher for most of my high school career, and he was a huge impact. He allowed me to kind of start this whole shebang of what it is that I'm doing, and I basically haven't looked back ever since in editing and writing and filmmaking in general. And so it's been a huge ride. And so when it comes to being a storyteller, which I think is huge, a lot of people sometimes have no idea how important music is. And so when I was starting out, that was something that I believe I had underestimated. Um, I had underestimated its impact and on how it can really help give gravity to what it is that you're actually seeing. And so kind of carrying that into from videography, especially into filmmaking, where it's even more bigger of an importance, that you're kind of getting the impact of the music choices that you're choosing to kind of make sure that it can match. Some people will go for something that might be a little bit more ironic, ironic in terms of um, I'm gonna show you this, but I kind of want you to feel like this. And music has that ability. I know for me, I really enjoy having music match up to what it is that we're seeing. And so actually, there was a scene in the film here where I had shot the final big confrontation of this arm wrestling competition that I was talking about with this film. And so everything kind of works up to this point. It's kind of like this climatic battle. If you read forms of mythology, or if you read something like Beowulf, there's always a few battles that happen. And for me, when I'm reading the story, a lot of times, the music may jump out like fire. Like it just may come to me in an instant. And I can say with this film, it didn't come to me instantly. When I shot the film and I was editing, I'm like, okay, this scene is pretty good. It has some things that might be a little bit weird or off, but I think for the most part, this scene kind of works. And the biggest thing that I was missing was the music. And it's like, oh my God, I gotta get this right. I gotta get this music right. I gotta get it down. And I mean, for at least 2 days, a day and a half, 2 days, I just couldn't think of it. And funny enough, the music that you're gonna hear throughout this scene, it actually came to me in a dream. I was, I know I was going for a very rocky center type of film, something that felt a little older, and it didn't dawn on me until I basically went to sleep. And so the music that you heard, I woke up that following day. It had to have been a couple of days before it was due, for the film was due, and I looked at something and I was like, I've heard this before. And with me being an Eagles fan and me being from Philadelphia, and with Rocky kind of being set in Philadelphia, this music I know I've heard before, especially being an Eagles fan and Sixers fan, most definitely. And so here it is. I'm actually going to show this to you and let it play out a little bit. So that way you kind of get the gravity of where it is the setting is going without having no context of anything else that happens in the story.
Y'all boys ready? Go! Come on,
Okay, and so that's kind of the end of the where the music kind of begins to dissipate, and you kind of hear the jubilation, I'd say, of what the audience members have seen. And so um, I think that song kind of gives me a little bit of goosebumps because it always makes me feel like I'm gonna run through a wall or something. And so it kind of goes to the importance of where um, you're seeing two characters in battle, and you're watching the audience members who are betting money on the film. If you can see where I paused it, a man is holding some money in his hand, and you're kind of, I would like to say, from what I've heard from people, they kind of felt like they were in the moment uh, with other people. And I think music has that ability to kind of take you into a mindset, or take you into sometimes what the character is thinking, to what the gravity strongest talents is being able to use music to the betterment of what it is that I'm editing and or producing. And so, you know, like I said, the scene wasn't, as great and as lovely as I would have loved to have had it. But I think the scene works in terms of what it is that I'm talking about, in terms of making music work for you. I didn't want to put just any old thing and into this scene, and I absolutely loved doing this scene. And you can tell that everybody was really into it, and most of those guys aren't actors. The two wrestling, um, they were the actors, and then there was one more. There was a guy in a gray hoodie who was walking around the entire thing, and you kind of get that feeling of okay, this is building, yo, like they're really going at it. This guy, like very much like David and Goliath, like David had really put up a huge fight, and had, on his story, he came out victorious. But in this one, it's kind of like Rocky 1, where you watch the movie and Rocky doesn't, well, spoiler alert, Rocky doesn't win the first one. If you haven't seen it, I'd be surprised if you haven't, but if you have, where Rocky didn't come out exactly victorious, but he had kind of accomplished what he set out to do. He didn't want to be a bum. And so the music, the undertone supporting of that movie is undergirded by music. And so I'm actually going to show you another video, one that I did closer to my time when I was in NCY. And so this is was one of my favorite films. This was a film that or not a film, but a video film, whatever you want to call it, whatever floats your boat, whatever boats you float. This was a video that I had did for a contest for a very popular website called Football Scoop, and a this is another example of being able to use music to the betterment and the best ability. And so, um, without further ado, I'm gonna let this play for a little bit. And by the way, I am gonna mention this right after we're kind of segue into another topic. Is kind of borrowing borrowing from certain things, from certain ideas as well. So that'll be a small part, but I'm gonna play this for a little bit, and whenever you guys see this, if you see a replay of this, just let me know how this exactly made you feel. Did it make you feel like you were in the moment? Did it make you feel you were intense? So, compare 2019 when I made that film to 2014 when this came out.
Brotherhood. You can't just wear this jersey. You can't be scared wearing this jersey. You can't be scared wearing this jersey. You got a song, Fear Us, baby. Coatesville, domination on 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Get it. Coatesville pride on 3. Cause that's what we got. Coatesville pride on 3. 1, 2, 3. Coatesville. 1, 2, 3. Let's go, man.
That was actually one of my favorite to actually edit. And so when I was doing kind of a test setup for all of this, I had told Helen that I actually haven't seen that video since 2014. And so it's kind of funny, 5 or 6 years removed from that, and kind of seeing that 6 whole years actually, to kind of see that. And so it's always really cool. So another piece of advice that I can give is anything that you shoot or that you capture, that you produce into something, keep that. If you can, send it into contests. Do something with it. Archive it if you must. And this was a really bright spot in high school for me. Not just these, not just the videos, but getting out there, shooting them, waiting long hours, and so if you want to get good at something, it is worth working for, in my opinion. And so one thing that I was telling Helen yesterday is, so this little introduction clip here, I'm gonna mute the music, but this little introduction clip here is actually something from I believe it was The Dark Knight Rises. So at the time, that was probably hands down one of my favorite films. And so what I actually did is I had actually taken one of those introductory pieces, because with Batman, a lot of his colors is like blue, black. And what I did is I actually changed the color in editing, and when I was editing all of this. And so it just kind of goes to show that you can manipulate things however way you want it. I mean, the technology is 2 or 3 times better what it is today than what it used to be in 2014. So, when it comes to going out here and making some really good content that'll really put some support behind you from other people, this is what I was, doing. I mean, a lot of these videos, I'm grateful because they have some has 3,000, 2,000, 10,000, 15,000, and I'm grateful to say a lot of the times there wasn't a lot of people doing what I was doing at this time. And now we're in a time where kind of capturing everything is something everybody can do from the confines of their own phone. And so that's really exciting. And make the best thing that you can, because you're fighting for attention from a whole bunch of other people. And so that is one of the big things that that I want you all to kind of get from this. And I'm talking soft, I guess, because it's, for me as a filmmaker, getting into a moment with people or with the video, like the last two, it's like, wow, that's really intense. That would make me kind of want to go through a wall myself. And I don't play football. My friends know I don't play football. That's not me. Maybe basketball. And but I did this for about 3.5 years, if you don't already know. And so that was that was actually wow. Yeah. So that was actually huge for me. And so another one thing that I actually do want to cover before I move on to anything else is the tempo of this particular video. Because you can tell in this video, there are a lot of very relatively quick cuts. And so you'll have the music doing one thing like dun 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 dun. And then by that point, you may see a cut. And one thing that you can do in editing is you can actually, it's almost like playing around with the song. And so there was something in a movie called Get On Up. That was the James Brown film, the James Brown biopic that had Chadwick Boseman. Pretty good movie. I really enjoyed it. And there was something that James Brown, played by Chadwick Boseman, had said. He said he had pointed at the woodwinds instrument, the woodwind people's instruments, and he was like, "What is this?" They said a saxophone. He was like, "No, that's a drum." And he pointed at various other instruments outside of just the snare or the bass drum. He's like, and he said everything has a rhythm, and I agree with that 100%. And I think when I saw that, I'm like, I can relate to that. Is everything does have a rhythm that you can play with. So with a video like this, and I'm actually gonna show you how certain things can have a bit more of a rhythm that you can play with. And so it doesn't always have to be one through line that you always have to stick to. But if you're getting quick cuts, it's like, to me, that makes a video more engaging, especially when you're doing something like sports, where it's like high octane, big highlights, you want to keep the audience member engaged, involved. And so we're actually going to kind of look at that a little bit, kind of do a little bit of analyzing. And so that was one cut. So you come in, 3, 4, cut. Then you see another cut at this point coming up, cut. All right, and then you see the title text, and it comes up, and it comes up. The music is at a low, and then it comes back, and then we get another cut here. Then you coming out, get another cut here. 1, 2, 3, 4, cut. 2, 3, 4, cut. 2, 3, 4, cut. 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 Cut.
Brotherhood.
2,
You can't just wear this
3,
jersey.
1,
You can't be scared wearing this jersey.
3,
You can't be scared wearing this
1,
jersey.
2,
You got song.
3,
Fear us,
cut.
baby.
2,
Coatesville domination on
4,
3.
cut. 2, 3, 4, cut. 2, 3. So you see, there's so many more cuts. Watch this. Huge. Rest, go. Right? And so when you're looking at something like this, and I've played musical instruments all my life, and so music is something that I relate to so well. So with this video here, it's a really good representation of what it is that you can do with your videos to kind of manipulate the tempo. So it's like, for most of the video was 1, 2, 3, 4, cut. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, cut. 1, 2, cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, cut. 2. So it does have a tempo, and a lot of the times what happens is the music sometimes will guide what it is that your video may entail. And so that's why I'm always telling people music is huge. And so that's what I was basically saying, is your tempo is hugely important. It's kind of crucial, especially when you're making a video. Such as something, especially like sports. Like sports is where I laid my head for quite a few years. And so when it comes to being able to make an impact on especially the city, for a lot of the Coatesville football or basketball fans who are watching these videos, it's like you want to make an impression on them. One other thing that I can say about a lot of these football videos that I found really cool is, so when I was making these videos, I would actually be making them to show the actual team before game time started. And so what would happen is around 5 o'clock-ish, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, the entire team would have a full breakdown meeting, just to kind of go over a couple things that they need to know for the game. And then at the very end, I would come in and show them a video like this. And so it really, from what the players have told me, it really helps them to get their to kind of get their mindset right. It makes a lot of them kind of want to go through a wall themselves, like they're just getting ready to go out in the locker room and go out and play the game. And so having those things in mind and knowing who it is that's going to see this first, at least, kind of really helps to scope and shape the types of videos that I wanted to do and show with them. And they really loved them. They really loved and appreciated them. And I enjoyed making them just as much. And there were a lot of really good tips and things like that that I had learned while doing these types of things. And so it, having that type of mindset going in is like, okay, all right, I want to do this, but it's like, how can I best impact people through music and video. And so I think this was a very amazing example And then, there were times where I would do some funnier ones. It's like these types of tips you can use for just about every and anything. But definitely having that emotional resonance was something that I think was really big. And so there is another video that I am gonna show right now. And so this is a video that I actually did a couple days ago. And so, for those who don't know, I actually run a fantasy league for basketball for the NBA. We call ourselves the NBA Flunkies, of which, like a year after making that name, I found it ironic because to be a flunky of something means that you had to have been in something. Like, hey, I was a high school flunky or a college flunky, or like you flunked college or whatever, things like that. You kind of got to be in it first. And to my knowledge, no one that's in the league has ever played in the in the NBA. And so it's a really cool name, really good group of people. I think we're up to about 15 people now. And so one thing that we do is after we're done drafting our respective teams, one thing that we do is one thing that I pitched to them about doing, seeing the fact that I'm the commissioner such, is actually running these teams through a simulated season. And so to kind of give us an idea of who might be able to win it all, especially in our real life league. And so what I'll do is I will assemble all the teams, give their teams a really cool outfits, or not outfits, but uniforms, all different uniforms and things like that kind of liken to their team, and we'll run the entire thing. And so this video here is actually a highlight of some of the best clips from the season that we had ran in NBA 2K20 a couple months ago. And I wanted to show this video because none of these events have ever happened really in real life per se, like nothing exactly. And so this is more of a virtual simulation. But one thing that I had decided to do was take audio that happened in real life and put it under things that happen in a virtual world and see how well it matched up. And so this kind of comes along to the idea of being able to manipulate things. And so, when I had mentioned earlier the Batman Dark Knight Rises kind of cloud puffing out with a whole bunch of color that was once blue that I changed to red, that's something that you may be able to use. Now, I will not, there might be copyright laws or issues. For me, I don't often worry about that because I know I'm not going to be benefiting any money from any of this. I just kind of make it for the goodness of the fun. And so this here is a highlight of some of the better plays that happened in our league. And so I kind of just want to show this for a few minutes. I won't show the beginning. I'll kind of get into the good stuff. So this is part of the excerpt video that I was talking about in the last recording, dealing with being able to kind of take something that might have never happened, but using audio from it that really did happen and seeing if you can kind of align it. So this is the type of experimenting that I do nowadays, out of fun, sometimes out of boredom, but mainly out of fun. But it's a really good way to keep your skills sharpened, to maybe try and add something else, because now we're bringing in audio, of which I've said earlier, music is just important as what we're seeing visually. And so let's take a look at this. And you guys, I'll play a couple of the clips because they all have forms of audio under it.
25.5. DeMar DeRozan, 6 to go, got all the way to the ball. Dominant, dynamite, detonates. Watch it. He just took that ball from the opposite foul line right down the middle. Well, it has to be teamwork here. Got to sacrifice your body. DeRozan sees an opening, drives and throws it down. DeMar DeRozan with the slam. stolen by Zach. He's to the line to Belay. After the poke.
So those are just a couple really good clips of ideas. And so, like I said, the audio is actually from games that actually happened in real life. It was probably a different team than what the player that you're hearing in the audio was playing against. Seeing the fact that these are all comprised of teammates who aren't on actual teams in real life. And so it's really interesting that you can kind of use and manipulate certain things to kind of come out to a particular end. And so this takes, I guess I'd say a little bit of skill, kind of knowing what it is that you want. And so, if you ever have an idea and you think that it can be possible, for anybody who's listening, just go out there and do it and see what happens. If it's good, it's great. If it's good, great. If it fails, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. But this was, like I said, this is a project that I had did, a little under than a couple days ago. I think they really enjoyed it. So, like I said, just using what it is that you have to the best of your ability. And so I'm going to actually go to another video, and this is kind of where I want to kind of get more into some physical shots. And so this here was a film that I had also directed, called RPS. I did this with one of my best friends in college. Well, I actually did this with some of my closest friends actually in college. Did this with many of my closest friends. It's basically about, there we go. This is basically about a person chasing someone in a form of confrontation, and he's chasing him for a particular reason that I'm actually going to let you watch the whole thing, because the short film is it's very quick. It's about 1 minute and 38 seconds. It's about 98 seconds about. And so I'm gonna let you guys watch this, and then we're gonna kind of go in and break down a little bit what it is that you're seeing. Okay, and so that was called RPS. RPS now stands for Rock, Paper, Scissors. Didn't want to give it away exactly, but if you can't already tell, I have a thing for games. I really enjoy games. I think it's a really good way of figuring out, at least from a psychological perspective, how people interact in certain situations. Monopoly is another very good game. But these are very physical games, and for me, it was kind of trying to figure out, okay, how can I put something together where it's not violent, but it is physical. And it's, arm wrestling is very physical because it deals with, with your arms and your strength, your physical strength, and also your mental strength, which is why it went for so long. And then this here is something where it's just a game. It's a cooperative game between two people. But it was, it was very competitive for one, but cooperative for another because he had no choice. And so this this first shot here, and this is another really good example of having music align with what it is that you're doing. And so we're getting very chase film type vibes, like someone chasing you through a city or through a town, which is exactly what we open up to. But the first thing we open up to is silence. Empty hallway. There's no one in it. It's dark. So it's not a whole lot, maybe a slight variation of lights. And then, so we come in, and if I'm looking at this from a musical perspective, you know, we're kind of at like a resting point. This is like a rest, right? So we come in basically on crescendo. All right, and so we're coming in. So we're at this point. We see, whoa, okay, somebody's running for somebody, right? And then we see another figure. It's like, okay, something's going on here. Real question is somebody else gonna come through that door? And so in this part here, where I paused it, where you can't see anything, I wanted an idea of where you can kind of manipulate things where you're in a dark room, but you want it to almost be like an alley. So if you've ever seen an alleyway, it's, you know, it can be relatively dark, where there's no one. Uh-oh, I think somebody make a comment. Make a comment in the chat. And so it's very dark here. And so one thing, and I'm gonna try and bring in some more resourcefulness as I'm talking. And so if you wanted to do something like this, you can literally go inside a dark room, wherever you're at, maybe a bedroom, where you may have blinds, where, you know, where there's no light coming inside, or very little fragments of light. And then what you can do, you see, so here, now you're seeing a little bit of light coming in. And actually what we did is we took like a phone flashlight, we actually turned it on, and we actually lightly shined it on his face. It was something like an iPhone. It was a very weaker light source, but it was just enough to kind of give off an idea that this is a dark room with a very faint light that you can't see it. And then he kind of comes in, and so we intensified the light by this point a little bit. And so much of this scene is casted into darkness, of which I say darkness is a very interesting thing to play with, and having little bit pieces of light. So if you think of things that you can use for lights, you can use your phone light, you can use a lamp. Like I know that was some things that we were getting resourceful with, is using lamps. And we would actually put those visibly in scenes to where it's like you can actually see them. So there is like, oh, I'm trying to hide the light. It's like, no, you can actually make the light be shown. Come in. And so you're getting this harsher type of light from him, very red. You can see the outline on our left, his right shoulder coming down his jacket on. And you're getting this nice little outline here, going across that jacket. And he's definitely looks like the guy who was chasing him, at least so what we know. He's just curious, like, bro, what do you want from me? Like, because as an audience member, we have no idea what it is, what's happening. It's just, we saw one person running, then we saw another person who looks like he was running after him. He comes in and has this confrontational look on him, and it's like, bro, what do you want? And so, and another thing, we're doing this with no audio. There is no talking. I'm sorry, no dialogue. All right, and so now we're getting a different form of light shining on him now, and I really like this because it's kind of like, I'm here, like what's good, like what's really happening. So we're gonna keep going, and this shot here, this is actually a really good time to kind of maybe reference some other shots that you can actually use in real life. So this is kind of what we call like a medium shot. And so a medium shot is one of the most popular, one of the most common shots that you can use in anything, in any video, in everything. I love it. I use it all the time. And a medium shot is basically where you're kind of cutting off half of the body. And so in this shot, we can see a little bit of his arms, but we can see his whole torso, his neck, his face, and up to about where the hat is. So this is about a medium shot area, right? Right, and then we come to this shot here. And so this is kind of like what we call an over-the-shoulder shot, but it's like a lower angle over the shoulder shot. And so what you can see here is you can see the arm of the gentleman, his right side, and then you can also see what we call full body shot of the other character on the other side. So this has a very, if you've ever played the Pokemon games where you kind of gotta, on the little Game Boys or whatnot. I know some of you are young enough to remember that. Some of you might not be. That's okay. So it kind of has that matchup lineup. If I can draw something that's comparative, it would be something like Pokemon, where you're in a standoff with something, but you can see the whole character on the other side, right? And so we're seeing him with his fist balled up like an Arthur meme, of course. And it looks like he has something in his hand. And so let's kind of see further what it is that he has. Right? And so homeboy just lifted his arm up, like he's ready to get it, getting ready to have a physical altercation. And so we're thinking like, whoa, okay, what is happening here? Right? And so this is what's called an extreme close-up. Most times it'll be on something like the eyes or something, and if someone has like a weapon in their hand or like maybe a piece of paper, something that draws detail to something. And so we're looking at him, or he's looking at the character, and it's like, okay, wow, what is this happening? What is this going on? Okay. Now he's doing. And now upon seeing this, now that you've seen it through one time, now you kind of understand what it is that he's doing. But if you're looking at this from a first time viewership, you're thinking like, all right, what is he doing with his hands? Is he doing like sign language? Is he so it's a lot of questions. And then he's like, all right, you know why I'm here. He's giving this little head nod, like, yeah, you know why I'm here. Right. And now the character in that last shot, he's like, all right, well, it ain't no getting out for me, because if there was a way to get out, I probably would have found it by now. Right? And so he's like, all right, well, the only way to get out of here is to face him. And so they face off with each other. And now you still don't exactly know. It's like, all right, it looks like they finna get, they finna just duke it out with each other. And it's like, nope. And so once they're done, you kind of get this bang. It's like this sounds like a bang, like the sound of a gong, or the sound of like a snare bass, something that you would play in a band, in a marching band, like percussion. And so you get this, and so for me, that's like a resounding halt. This is a resounding, like, this is the end, basically. So, and what this is called here, this is called a tracking shot. And so when they went in from the two guys standing, they went into the hands, and now they're pulling out. And a tracking shot mainly is what it is. You usually track the motion or movement of a character in anything. And you've seen it a couple times in some of the videos that I've done. And so the cool thing about this film is this won third place at a film festival, at a college film festival in Atlanta. We call it the AUC Film Festival when I was a student at Morehouse. And so that was very exciting. It was a very exciting time. And so you take this and then you take the film Socket that I did. And it was like a couple of weeks after Socket had won Best Picture in my graduating class. And so it was like out of 11 films about, it had won Best Picture. And so I was really like honored, I guess, at that, because it was the first time that our program had ever done that. And it was a really cool deal. And so this is more of like, I wanted to show more things about shots, just the use of choices on what it is you can do with certain shots. Just trying to make sure I am reaching everybody, making sure everybody's understanding. Like I said, I will leave the links with Helen for anything else that I'm going through with this film. At this point, do you guys have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think that video was a really good example of building suspense, and then kind of like you said with the gongs, like this is it, this is happening, the end of the suspense. So I thought that was a really good movie.
Yeah,
to talk
thank
about.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And that's just the big thing is, you know, when I'm actually going to go back to one of my older videos that I had made, is because music is so important. You know, a lot of people get so caught up in what it is that we're visually seeing that sometimes they allow for the music to kind of falter, where it's not as compelling as what it is that we're seeing. And sometimes, from what I've seen from a lot of different videos, you can lose an audience member from doing something just like that. And so for the people who are watching this now, who are going to rewatch this in the near future, you know, audio is hugely important. And if there isn't anything else that you take away from this, then that is, I hope, to be one of the biggest things. And so I'm actually going to show you one of the last videos I'm going to show is something that a bunch of high schoolers did that I found to be extremely amazing. I'm actually not going to show that one. I'm actually going to show this one. And so these videos here that you're seeing is like a catalog of videos. These were all done by high schoolers, like 15, 16, 17, even 18-year-old high school kids. This is all, any graphics that you see, these were all done by high school students. And so it just goes to show you, you know, the type of drive that you can have to make your own content. Like I said, I could have easily done this with a phone if I had one at the time, which I didn't have at the time, or even like the phones that we have nowadays. Like, it's, you know, if you want to really be out here doing something, you can do it. And it's really no exact excuse to not being able to get something done. And this had 4,500 views, of which yeah. And so actually what I am going to do is I'm actually going to save this video for next week, because I just got a text that we had gone on over just about an hour. But this is the first video that I will start with next week. But like I said, audio is hugely important. And one of the things that Helen and I had kind of talked about doing is, you know, kind of trying to put some of these things into action a little bit. And so, you know, if you have the time and or the capabilities, or if you have your phone or whatnot, you know, kind of take some of these tips or tools that I've kind of given out and really just kind of use them. And so one thing that Helen and I talked about is just making a small little clip, a video of you talking about what Coatesville means to you, I know there was a contest you all had earlier dealing with why you don't drink, which I think is an amazing promotional tool for kind of, you know, substance prevention, and just being able to kind of have a little bit of discipline and self-control. That was something for me. Just having self-control, having discipline at a much younger age is what I had really emphasized, which is why I was able to do so many videos for sports and weddings and marriages and interviews, and a whole bunch of other things. And so substance prevention is huge, and I know CYI is really emphasizing that nowadays. And so what you can do is just kind of gather video. You can have it in selfie mode or whatnot, and just get a little clip of yourself. Maybe try and put yourself in the rule of thirds. Put yourself on selfie mode, set it somewhere. Say, hey, this is why, why I don't drink, or this is why I love Coatesville. And then if you don't want to do I would do a video of that, but if you don't want to do a video of like your environment or something like that, get a photo. I would say one thing I'll do is try and get a photo around what we call golden hour. I think that would be really cool. Maybe get something where you're seeing the sun setting. It could be on your house. You can take a photo of someone and getting that lovely brown hazel feel. And like I said, I will send any resources that I have to Helen, all the videos that I shared today. I will definitely send that to you all. But other than that, this has been a really fun 1 hour. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I know it's not always easy, but I really appreciate you guys sticking with me. And hopefully I can get some of those pieces of content, and I'll be also working on something myself to kind of show you guys on what it is that I'm talking about. And I'll probably do all of it from my phone, just to kind of show everybody, how you can push your phone and what things you can do to kind of make the things that you have right now work. And so I really appreciate the hour, I appreciate the time, and thank you, Helen, so much. And I want to give a shout out to Jarvis Ferry and everyone else at CYI for having me here to talk with you guys.
Yeah, and thank you, Ronjae, for coming back and sharing all your knowledge with us. I believe you said you have 9 years of experience making videos through high school, college, and now professionally. Yeah. So that's really awesome, and I'm glad we could hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. No problem. All right, guys. See you next week.
See you next week. Same time, same Zoom link.
Same Zoom link.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.